Let's see if it works.
Can you maybe you could check on the phone? We're live.
It is.
We are live.
Okay, we made it. Okay, hello everybody. We are live on Facebook Live. At last, we made it. We're both sat on a very small chair and our bums are squashed together. But that's what you do just to fit into this small little square that you're all watching us on. So yeah, hello everybody. We are here, Simon, Dara, and Ruby May and Jamie Catto, who many of you may know or may not know, and now through watching this conversation, you may get to know a little bit more. So hello Ruby, hello Jamie, thank you for joining us on this radically intimate talk.
Hi guys.
Tell us everything. Be visible.
Okay, let's get radical intimate.
So if you're watching this on the live or even on the replay, I wanted to call in Jamie for a radically intimate conversation. And I noticed that he and Ruby have been teaming up together and touring around the world and creating safe spaces, hopefully safe spaces. Maybe safe spaces, no, safe spaces for a dive into intimacy, into shadows, and yeah, and exploring that. And actually I'm here to find out a bit more about that, but at the same time, just so this is the first time I'm meeting Ruby. This is like the second time in almost virtual reality, in almost real reality, that I'm meeting Jamie, but I've been following a bit of his work and his writings and you know, his expression in the world. And if you haven't seen one of his amazing films, then you should check out the film. That's how I first found this beautiful man, called, what's the film called?
Titanic. No, it's called the One Giant Leap films, you mean, I think.
Bon Jovi.
No.
Oh, the Titanic. Check it out on all channels.
Amazing film.
So yeah, so let's just jump in, right? We want to be radically intimate with you both. And what does radical intimacy mean for you, Ruby, and you, Jamie? Let's start there and let's just see where we meander.
Ruby, you said you first.
Oh, you've been chatting away. I'm a bit.
All right, I'll get it. I'm already warmed up.
Awkward first stage. There's some radical intimacy for you. Feeling a bit awkward and not quite warmed up yet, Jamie. Why don't you?
Okay, well.
That's quite radically intimate.
Well, we've been playing. Just been playing with so many creatives and artists, and in relationship and out of relationship, with the idea of all the different parts of ourselves, how limited we are in the edit of what we show each other, not just in every day with the people at work, but even with your closest people, and even to ourselves. That, you know, when the basic pattern that when we were little, we were shown that so many parts of ourselves were unwelcome. Not only the shadowy, dark parts, like you weren't allowed to show anger or you weren't allowed to cry tears, that all went off and got edited away and unwelcome, but also to be big and loud and flamboyant and fun, that often got beaten out of people as well. So many parts of ourselves, so that we're left with this little shop window of what we thought was acceptable, this letterbox. And so many of the parts of that people are just scared of, like they haven't looked at it for so long, it's become like this big phantom. And just realized really early on, partly through being a musician and being theatrical and a lot of performance, that there's just as you can have fun hamming up the very things that you're hiding from, that when you sort of make them ridiculous and exaggerate them, and all our suffering dramas and all the things which people have made taboo in the new age, we find it more fun to like be ridiculous and foolish with them and fess up, be so messy and so ridiculous that it's no longer a taboo, and then it can't creep up on you the way it does as well. So yeah, that's been our fun, is being radically intimate by daring to show each other the messy bits, and not only show it, but celebrate it as great theatrical hilarity.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
I love that.
And I love that. Okay, go on, Ruby. Give us a little bit of.
I'm just noticing what just happened. No, that you invited me to share.
Well,
And then because the conditioning is so strong, oh, if I'm a facilitator, then I have to sound a certain way.
Right.
I have to make sense. I have to da, 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 da. And then there's that impulse to edit. And so, yeah, I think Jamie and I have. You always give me a worried look when I start sharing that.
You might say the thing about the kiss.
Share the thing about the kiss.
You might. That's why I'm looking at you worried.
Is that your worries or you're hoping?
Maybe I'm hoping. Well, I've done it now.
No, I think my path and my work has been very intuitive, and it's now only looking back at the kind of twists and turns and the things that I've been exploring and inquiries that I've been on, that I'm able to kind of make sense of, okay, that's why this has been so fascinating, and that's what I've been creating and fostering. And I think that ultimately it's about midwifing a new culture into being. And I think there's so many different ways that one can do that. And the way that we love to is to create these spaces where there's really, utilizing the medicine of humor, bringing the softness into it, and finding this beautiful paradox between a lot of lightness and joy, but a lot of depth as well. And kind of taking those most like scary, taboo, fragile, icky things that we fear we would be rejected, or we fear that it would come across as funny, or we fear that it's not okay for whatever reason, to sort of find the gems in that, to play with them. So yeah, we've been doing this beautiful collaboration called Bitches and Bastards.
Jamie's the bitch and the bastard, or just one?
We realised that one of the things that we realised we bonded over is that we never really get triggered, and we have these really amazing, healthy, functional relationships.
Somehow we're just so much better than other people.
We thought that as the relationship gurus,
we needed to share,
depart our wisdom on masses.
Yeah.
And yes.
Yeah, I just love the mess. I love beginning any group, anything. It's just like this collective acknowledgement that we're all so crazy, and just the relief of everyone no longer having to be the I'm normal, I'm crazy, I'm not crazy, I've got it together version of themselves. The moment everyone's like laughing about how fucking nuts we are, and anyone could hear your internal dialogue, you'd all be locked up. You'd no more, like I always say, there'd be no more Reiki customers for you. That would be over if people could hear. And when we all acknowledge that, it's just everything else is easy. You know what I mean? It takes so little willingness for such treasure to come back. You know, we've made these parts of ourselves phantoms because we won't even dare look at them. It's like, oh, no, 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 no. And anyone that brings us there, we fight them, we manipulate them, we complain about them, we run to the fridge, run to Facebook, we do anything but feel that thing because it's uncomfortable. But actually, it's a real phantom. It's a bit like grandmother's footsteps. It's behind you and you can't see it. So you think it's like this. The moment you clock it, just turn a little bit towards it, it's like this big and actually wants to help. And all these things we thought about it was like a phantom that's trying to sabotage me and make me look ugly in front of people. The very thing, we've got the exact opposite idea of what it really is. And it doesn't take an awful lot of courage to turn towards it. That's the thing. It's not some big, like deep shadow work, some edgy thing where I'm going to come into contact with my cathartic. It's not like that actually at all. It's like these little midgy kind of gremlins and helpers and little parts of, it's like a really nostalgic homecoming. What looks to people like, oh, heavy shadow work isn't fucking heavy shadow work. It's pissing yourself laughing with some mates. And it's just such a smaller thing to me. If you don't like looking really stupid, I forgot the caveat.
The caveat is what? Sorry. If you don't mind looking really stupid, that's the caveat.
If you don't mind how you look, if you know you're a mess.
So do me a favor as well. You're doing a great job. Keep your head a little bit like covering that light, yeah. So I can see Ruby a bit more.
Or me?
Yeah, no, Ruby,
No,
you're
Jamie,
fine.
you're
Jamie,
fine,
you're
Jamie.
going to play as the light cover.
Hey. I'll do that every
think
time I say something really deep.
I think that's your halo, though, right? That's your halo.
Yes.
Crown chakra.
I actually have an extra chakra on top of everyone
But
else's.
when you say something really enlightened, you can just
I can go. And the truth is,
Exactly. That's perfect. Just like that. Please let go of this lead.
Oh, I'm not looking.
Yeah.
So, okay, go on, Ruby. Did you want to say something to that before?
What did I want to say?
You said you were talking about radical empathy in the workshops. Now you wanted to talk about radical empathy as regards to your own personal life.
No, I felt like you were downplaying it, just
Oh,
a little
okay,
bit.
no,
That
not making it sound deep enough.
yeah.
Okay, it's also fucking deep.
No, and I think that there's a lot of courage that takes place there as well, and I think
I'm teasing in a way. It's like the humour beckons everyone down the garden path until it's too late to turn back. And we're all sort of laughing about these different parts of it. And then suddenly you realize you're in a really deep, beautiful process, but you didn't have to have the sort of big preamble of getting yourself there, because, yeah, we laugh our way to the deep stuff.
Should we give you an example of, so it makes more sense, like what kind of things that we do in the workshop might be interesting for people?
I think for people listening, that would be very beneficial.
Yeah. Okay. So should we choose one of our favourite?
Well, we play a good suffering game. The suffering game is quite a good one.
Yeah.
So we make a little list about.
Maybe as a preamble.
We could ask them.
Oh yeah, we could do that too. But as a preamble, we also really created this workshop for us. So we wrote a list of all our favourite ways to manipulate in relationships, and
give our power away, and
a lot of it is themed on the ways in which we suffer as a kind of currency. So as a way to milk someone of empathy or attention or whatever the emotional need is behind that. So the first part is that we wrote a list, and then we tell everyone the
list, and everyone chucks in ideas like looking upset until they notice is a great top of the list sort of manipulation. You don't want to ask, it's a way of being indirect. You know, suffering is like you want their attention, but you don't want to say you want their attention. So you have the 3/4 turn out the car window as you're driving along until they will say, "What's the matter?" And then you can say, "Well, if you don't know."
But you've never done that before.
No, but before we were enlightened, the kinds of things we used to do.
Dara was great at that.
I'm great at that.
She was doing that today.
Me too, by the way.
But one of my favorite techniques is one up from that. It's like leaving the room in a distressed state and hoping to be rescued.
Very good one.
These are beautiful traits of the pain body. I love them.
Exactly. So we make quite a long list of like 30 or 40 things sometimes, you know, like even just like playing disempowerment, you know, like you can get control so many people by being a bit fragile today.
Yeah.
Or like, I've hardly had any sleep or whatever, like, but it's not directly asking for the support. It's just being in that suffering state and telling everybody. So then we basically go into groups, and everyone has made a list now of their primary, most shameful manipulations. And we do the manipulation for our group. Like you do an exaggerated, you try and manipulate your group with your manipulation.
You act it out.
You act it out exaggeratedly. And the group's job is to totally buy into it and totally give you all the sympathy and all the, that's terrible, you're a saint, you really are. And to chase you out of the room and say, come back, we're sorry. Or whatever, just to keep giving it everything it wants. And then it can never quite get you, you know, like in the future, you go out into your life, and when some people start leading with their suffering, you're like, oh, that sounds really hard. But it's very difficult to carry on the suffering game after you've tied a bit to the ankle. You know?
Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and once you've been in that process and you've seen the absurdity of it, like even as a reflection of that, even when you're next in it, you just like you almost have to laugh at yourself because you're like, oh my God, I can't go there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's really touching for people when they get given what it is that they need, that they even really make that connection. Okay, if I'm really honest with myself, I really want to feel loved right now. I really want to feel seen right now. And I think there's something really precious about letting yourself receive that, and then that shifting something in you where you have a more direct access to that and the possibility to make a request.
You're taking the shame away from the need. So the first part of the game is looking at the symptom and taking the piss out of it and of ourselves and just like making it so, you know, And then after that, actually find the genuine need that's behind that dysfunctional behavior. Because in the new age, we often think, I'm only going to give you love if you express yourself responsibly. And if you deviate from nonviolent communication, I'm not going to give you any love until you express yourself. It's like we hold people's love for ransom if they won't be spiritual responsible. But to go deeper than that, you just find what is actually the need behind that irresponsible behavior. They want what? And to meet that need, whether it's being asked responsibly or not, the point is that there's a tender, beautiful child behind there that needs some love of some kind and some reassurance. So to still get to that point, but still take the piss out of the unhealthy way to get it. So you still get the prize at the end and still locate what the need is, but then remove the irresponsible, manipulative way to go about getting it. But not to skip the need. You've still got the need, you know what I mean? You can't skip that part.
Yeah, at the root, it's about uncovering that, because some people are also not aware of the need. Like even when I'm triggered, or I'm feeling closed, or I'm feeling a little bit shut down, and like you just beautifully both described, I just want to say, hey, I just need some support today. I'm feeling overwhelmed, and I could do with some help, or I could do with not doing anything, and maybe like just being, you know, nurtured and my head rubbed. I just won't ask that. Instead, I just go, nope, it's okay. I will survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a currency in not looking weak and particularly in our self-development circles. And until very recently, neediness became illegal. And it meant you weren't enlightened.
Neediness became illegal. That's classic. It's unbelievable. You get arrested now.
Yeah, you do. You lose your Buddha stripe.
You get one of those like yellow stickers stuck on your forehead, and you have to pay $79.
Yes, minimum.
Yeah. So, like, you know, bringing back all the things that have those kinds of taboos in a non-confronting way, in a non-excruciating way, is really, really friendly. You know, it's like, it's very, very undramatic. It's really, really friendly, and it's almost like waking up from a spell, because like you say, when you get triggered into that thing, the wise, lovely, kind Simon, who knows that you deserve love and support, the one who knows, goes to sleep. And the demon who's got charge of the wheel now is I must never look weak. No, I've got it under control, and I'm an island. And that's like a special needs character that goes everywhere with you. But God help us if we give it the email or the mouth.
Yeah.
These characters that live in us are so amazing at making us go to sleep and really think that their values are our values.
Exactly.
So one of the ways we getting past that is to stay awake, is to never use the word I when we're talking about the behavior of one of those characters. So you never say, I find it so hard to love myself. You, Simon, you, Dara, you're beautiful, wise people. You know you deserve an average amount of love, maybe not more or less than anyone else, just an average amount. But when you forget that and you start beating yourself up, it's not really I'm beating myself up. It's like one of those characters is beating me up because I've gone to sleep. And to keep making sure our language is clear, we only use I when we're talking about the awake, kind one. And don't use the word I when we're talking about shitty behavior or irresponsible behavior, because it's not really you. You're asleep. The you who I think is you isn't the one going, no, I won't have any help. That's not you. You're asleep. And that one is like one of the children that's got keys to the car.
Yeah.
So I think knowing who's who and knowing, you know, then you know it's like one of the characters, then the other one has a chance to stay awake. If you're not treating yourself kindly, it's not you.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
You want to speak to this?
I just love the idea of, like, if you're not treating yourself kindly, it's not you. This resonates very deeply with me, and also the fact about the humor, because once we went to this retreat where we did we laughed for 3 hours a day for 3 days in a row, and then we cried for 3 hours a day for 3 days in a row. And then we sat in silence. It was sort of a version of the Mystic Rose of the Osho process. And I was laughing like hysterically for 3 hours. I didn't think it was possible to actually laugh for that long, that sustained. But that the realization that really all of this is so incredibly funny from a certain standpoint when you really go out of it. And I saw this whole earth, and this was just hilarious, like the absolute cosmic joke. And since then, we sometimes do even just this laughter practice, where we basically just, when we feel a lot of closure inside, we just go and laugh, and then it literally just purges out of our bodies. So laughter for me is such a profound and easy access to break through that crust of pain that sometimes just locks us into this stagnation of I don't know. Yeah, this what you just said, the thing that's not me, and then that really breaks us out of that. Just Simon this morning was doing that actually on the mat, laughing his head off, and I was sitting and I don't know what I was doing, meditating, I think. And it was so
I was
hilarious.
probably distracting you somewhat.
No, you weren't. It was actually quite sweet. I was laughing with you internally. But I really love this little exercise that you just shared, and the sweetness around bringing awareness to these subtle manipulating mechanisms that we have, because obviously we all have them and we all use them, and the more aware we get, or not maybe, the more aware we get around them, the less we have to indulge into them. And I feel it's sometimes they're so addictive. They have such an addictive nature to them because we've done them so often. It's, you know, I know I don't want to walk out of the room or stump out of the room right now and shut the door, but
It's like, who controls my hands? Who controls my body?
It's exactly that.
And I think it's such a beautiful gateway into so much more as well, no? Because it opens up this topic of needs. And that is a huge topic that, as we were saying, is so, it's a blind spot culturally.
Yes.
No? It's like we are so detached from the concept of needs with, you know, the default is to be quite detached from our bodies and our sense of who we are and our rootedness into who we are and the ground. And I think that when we start going down that rabbit hole as to what needs are, it can, how to find the words. I think ultimately everything is pointing us towards what do we need in order to thrive. To really thrive, because that's why we're here on this planet. No, we're not here just to survive and scrape by and make do and struggle. And we're here to really, it's our birthright. We're allowed to wake up in the morning and feel exhilarated with life and to feel full of joy for our existence. And so, you know, we start at this little doorway of manipulation, and it sort of tips us down this rabbit hole into the whole deeper concept of needs and the system that we live in, and the narratives that we're living by, and what changes we would actually have to make in our lives in order to really come into thriving and having our needs met. So
yeah, that's beautiful, and I love the little text on your website under your image where you talked about this whole, really that what you just spoke about is that if we really want to change in the world, if we really want to show up and walk as, let's say, I like the term as Darpan uses it, but this sort of metamorphose, this new way of being, sort of like completely deconditioned from the past. So it's like we're really like stepping into what you just described, which really doesn't even have many aspects of what we've been conditioned to believe ourselves to be, which is what you just described, Jamie, which is all these other personas that are not actually our truest self. And you said something beautiful on your website around pleasure, and you've I know you've trained as the sexological body worker, and it's something that I'm currently just finishing into the 3rd module now. And I love that this thing around pleasure and intimacy and transparency, and how when we really embody those values and we start to just step into that space of being more transparent and being able to pleasure ourselves, and like you just described, Ruby, connect to the body and go into what our needs are. That's a. I know we at the beginning, like you said, that Jamie was maybe making it a bit light. It is light, but some people are holding on to such identification to that pain and to that suffering. And like as Dara just said, laughter is a great key for that. But I love what Marshall Rosenberg said, and maybe you can, Jamie or Ruby, can speak to this, but that, you know, all violent communication is a tragic expression of our unmet needs. So I love this. I love this, what you're speaking about, how like most people on our workshops and our retreats, when we ask them to tell us how they feel or tell us what they need, they don't know. right? They really don't know. I know what you said earlier, Jamie. It's like, yeah, they need love, and the child needs love, and we need nurture, and we need support. But this idea of like, what do we need to thrive? That's a beautiful question.
Yeah. The first, I wish I was mentioning this before when you said about, you know, what is radical intimacy to you? For me, it all comes down to the same tool that we have to cultivate, whether it be to catch these demons so they don't put us to sleep and we don't start believing that their truths are our truths. Oh, that means she doesn't love me or care about my feelings. No, it doesn't mean that. It's just an interpretation your demon just chucked in, you know, to notice that, or to notice this feels a bit funny. I'm feeling like I need a bit more space. This person's a bit close. Or to notice all the things we need to notice to be able to self-care and ask ourselves, how do I feel? What do I need? To even know the answer to that, the first radical intimacy has to be totally switching on this like internal CCTV system, which most people don't have on.
Right.
So to totally always, we do it on the workshops a lot, we call it full body listening, but the main primary tool that goes through every single game and everything single process and dance that we do is full body listening, which is you're so intimate with the inside. The radical intimacy is with yourself, with your inside feelings, intuitions, messages, rejections, vulnerability. So you go, oh, look, vulnerability. And before it becomes I need to have a fight with Simon, before it even gets to that stage, you're noticing it in the heart or in the belly, wherever it's come up, and go, oh, hello. And because a lot of these feelings feel edgy, our culture is comfort addicted. So everybody runs straight away. The moment they have one of those sensations that feels vulnerable in the body, straight to Facebook, straight to the fridge, straight to a complaint, anything but not feel it. So we've got to teach the whole world to do the exact opposite of everything we've been doing, which is the moment you feel something edgy, it means it's interesting. It doesn't mean it's something to run away from. It means, oh, hello. And to create this culture of, oh, hello, and feel it in the body, then you can have any kind of a chance to give yourself what you need, any kind of a chance to ask yourself, how do I feel right now? Any kind of a chance to go, oh, that's fucking a lot of anger. I want to push a rusty nail into your eye. That's not very good. Wait a minute. But to notice it before you do it, and constantly, like Ramdas, who's my favorite teacher, Ramdas is always like, you've got to be in two places at once. You're in the human ego melodrama, and at the same time, that's never going to stop, obviously, but at the same time, you've got this soul kind of kind, loving place that's going, oh, that's a big melodrama. There's the place that is sucked in and the place that isn't sucked in, running concurrently. But there's no spiritual practice which gets rid of the human ego version. You know, that's going to be going on. How much it fucks up your life or how much you decide to let it be destructive, that's one matter. But there's no this instead of that. This isn't instead of living a melodramatic ego life. But yeah, the radical, what I just wanted to say, that was a long way to say that for me, the radical intimacy is to have such an intimacy with the inside topography, landscape of my body, its feelings, its vulnerabilities, its intuitions, its needs, constantly asking, constantly turning inside rather than running away from edgy feelings, finding them interesting, even for becoming a wine taster of our weird feelings. Go, oh, that's a real flavor. Oh, that one's got some, you know, you just sort of, find it juicy and curious. And suddenly the body's genius goes from black and white to color. But we're constantly trying to run away from those feelings. So it just stays in this plumbed, clogged, and eventually you have to have a nervous breakdown or a bankruptcy or something when you're in your 40s, just because of all the accumulation. But yeah, it can only take so much. But yeah, to keep coming inside ourselves is like the radical intimacy that is the corner of all of it, so that I can even have a chance to be responsible with you. I've got to know, hey, I'm feeling like I need space. I've got to know that to even communicate it to you responsibly. Forget about NVC. I've got to even know what I want to say before how I say it.
Right. Right. So I love that. What are you up to?
No, I'm just checking.
You checking stuff?
She's running the job.
Checking if it actually works.
She's spacing out. It's too much, brought up too much stuff.
No, not at all.
No, she's checking.
No, this is actually totally like I so 100% agree with. No, I know, but I really, this is so perfect because for me, this I usually call it the analogy that I use often is when we do yoga and we're hanging one of these asanas, you know, these strange, really difficult pose, and you're just like, and your muscles start shaking and everything, like, and the teacher is not saying you should release it, and you really want to exit it. And then a yoga teacher of mine once said, the asana begins when you want to exit it. And this is for me, like the relationship begins when you want to exit. you know, so that like when you actually really when you feel you have this maximum capacity of what your emotion can hold, then this is when life starts. This is when you're practicing. This is when you're like expanding into this new, like, okay, how can I stay open here? Can I stay with this and just feel it and not run away from it? So it's yeah, it's really powerful. It's beautiful.
Okay, yeah, feel everything. Ruby, you
not all at once.
yeah, go on, Jamie.
Oh,
Sorry, no, wait, Jamie, you're going to say something. Then Ruby was going to say something.
No, I'll say that.
I just wanted to relate it back to this joke we were saying about the safe space earlier on. Do you remember at the beginning of the interview? And that there's something that can be so healing when we have a person or a space where the invitation is to be vulnerable and is to meet all these different things inside us with kindness and softness. And at the same time, I don't like to use the word safe space. I like to use the word safer space, which you've probably heard of. I don't know. And it's the idea that life isn't safe. No, like we so desire to be around people who are just going to lovingly welcome everything that we show up with. But the fact is that even in workshops, we're going to be confronted, and we're going to perhaps, have an experience that feels edgy, or something comes up and there's as much as it's healing to be met in these gentle and soft and beautiful ways, is my own capacity to hold myself. So is, regardless of whether this is a safe space, regardless of whether I'm going to be met with the perfect reaction that would be ideal for me right now, I am going to hold myself. I am going to witness my own reaction. And a lot of the work that we do over the weekend is around the kind of inner parent of ourselves. And so making a clear distinction between when is it my young part that is upset, that is being activated, and can I cultivate that sense of holding and that sense of being with my inner adult.
Yeah, because no amount of doing boundaries with people, if you've handed over your feeling of everything is okay to somebody else's actions, then they will eventually fail. Like someone once said to me that no, you can't be scaffolding for someone else's soul. We can step parent each other's children and we can do our best. But at the end of the day, the bottom line, deeper than all the boundaries and ways we try and set up life to not feel the things we don't want to feel, is to be able to really truly say to ourselves, hey, it doesn't matter, no matter what anyone does, I'm never going to leave you. To yourself, that no matter, you could be in the perfect relationship, but like the next day they've just had a life epiphany and gone off, hunting,
this is
whatever. Never know. You can't rely on other humans, basically. So, so you learn all these beautiful ways to be with each other. But the thing behind all of that is that your inner child, or that your basic sense of well-being, knows, hey, I'm a grown-up. I've got a dry place to sleep. I've got food in the fridge. I'm never going to leave you. No matter what any woman does, comes or goes, or not what any man does, comes or goes, I'm never coming and going. And that's the deeper kind of thing to reach, that, wow, I can actually hold myself even when the shit hits the fan. I've resourced. Doesn't mean you've got to hold yourself alone. It's not meant you've got to be staring at a blank wall. I've got enough friends I can call. I've got my kids. I've got my time in nature. I've resourced myself with enough other bowls that feed me, so that when the partner starts, not acting how I want, I'm not suddenly starving to death.
Right. Well, this is a beautiful point. I think that maybe there's something that I adopted personally from a young age, and it was not about going to a workshop or event or hearing it in a book or actually having some sort of spiritual enlightened experience. It was just a case of actually being able to take full responsibility for myself and knowing that actually I can look after myself. I've been in some very quite extreme, quite violent situations, and in those spaces I've come out, and through the willingness to actually be with myself in those times and say that actually we made it through, and actually sometimes look at what happened and go, what the hell just happened, but I'm still here, so we did okay, let's continue. That's built up a sense of confidence in me to know that I'm always going to be okay. But you said something lovely there. Maybe I love the word resources, because of course we look out in the world and we know that many people are struggling, suffering, caught up in all of these personas that we're talking about. Many people are feeling lost, confused, depressed, anxious, believe that they don't have a purpose, believe they're not miracles, are living in unworthiness, telling themselves a lot of self-hatred, a lot of diminishing thought patterns going on. Hence why we're even putting ourselves in these positions to show that there's an alternative way. So what might be nice is like to hear, if this feels nice, but like just a little like dive into the personal, from your personal perspective, as opposed to what we do out there for people. What have you moved from in your own experiences that have helped you to be more resourceful? And like, it would be lovely, yeah, just to share a little intimate experience from, you know, individually, of like how, you know, you then whatever jumped on a resource or grabbed something and it supported you through a real life experience. Whatever pops up in this moment, if you're happy to share something from that place.
So the question, so that
What in your own private life has been something you realised, a resource that's helped you? So
used as a resource.
yeah,
Okay.
discovered and supported you.
Okay. During both of us, during
Both of
relations,
each other.
during challenges in our relating.
Yeah, you're relating in, like, so for example, yeah, you've had an experience in your life where you felt shit, this is, you know, you've been in this like triggered space or whatever, but you've been able to pull yourself through it because of, you know, whatever, maybe some of the resources you now share, or maybe even just through some other experience.
My thing has been around friendship, because I've been like because I've been on the road as a musician for decades, and then on the road as a snake oil salesman. It's a very solitary life, and I realized you were around a lot of people a lot, but you're not in a kind of equal power dynamic a lot of the time with the disciples, particularly, and so
Seriously,
I realized that about a year or so ago. I went, wow, the only people I've seen in the last 2 or 3 years are either clients or my kids. And I wasn't really attending to the nourishment of my men, my women friends, you know, just beautiful platonic relationships that are regular enough that the person actually knows what's going on in your life, not someone that you check in with every month, or, you know, they actually know, oh, you were feeling dodgy yesterday, you're feeling better today. You know, they're that much in your kind of circle that people care about. You let them care. You know, and I'd been running a lot of beliefs in my life a while back that still crop up occasionally, which is like that if you're loving to me, that means it's either a failure in you that you haven't noticed how crap I am, so I lose respect or trust in you, or I've somehow manipulated you into, I've conned you into liking me. So that's just sort of like something that I used to carry. So any love I used to get, it was tagged with a bit of shame that I'd somehow ill-gotten gains. And when I started to realize that was, wow, anytime someone was really nice to me or sort of praising me, I was like, oh, I felt like a naughty boy, like I'd conned them because of my childhood. It revolutionized the whole way. I decided to be really more diligent around staying in touch with friends and keeping these, I was telling you in the last thing that the bowls, keeping these other bowls full, because I realized that where I was behaving in relationships with girlfriends was that if everything was nice with the girlfriend and she was in a good mood and everything was hunky-dory, life was hunky-dory. If she was suddenly withdrawing or something was dodgy, or I thought she was, you know, if something dodgy was going on, life suddenly was unlivable and I couldn't breathe. So I'd made the nourishment, the source of nourishment, just whether the relationship was okay or not. And that's why I go on about the resources. The big thing, that was actually the big step for me, was realizing, God, like there's actually, I wrote a thing called The Secret of the 8 Bowls. And I keep 8 bowls and I check on them every day that they're full or quite full, which is, you know, my friendships that give me a lot, my relationship, quality time with my kids, my creative output, making films and music and being creatively productive, my time alone and in nature, solitude time, my body care and home care, which is like one thing, which is like just keeping me and my environment sort of healthy and moisturizing slowly and doing the whole thing very, very consciously rather than rushing in and out, brushing teeth forever, like totally unconsciously, making sure the home care and the body care is like really present, service and being useful. Anyway, there are these 8 bowls. And if I'm really making sure that they are, you know, that they're attended to, I'm much less suffocated and much less of a fucking basket case when I go into a romantic situation.
Beautiful.
Much less of a liability.
Yeah, yeah, lovely. Maybe you can post that 8 Bowls article in the thread after so that people can read it.
Oh, yeah, it's in the blog.
Thank you. And yeah, okay, beautiful. Yeah, Ruby, whatever's alive in you, is there anything intimate you'd like to share on experience, how you surf some of these moments?
I think, well, there's two things. Well, one is I have a trigger manual, Ruby's own personal trigger manual, which literally is a step-by-step list of what to do when I'm in a triggered state. And I personally have quite intense triggers because of trauma that resurfaces in certain situations. And so I've been on a whole ride around learning what complex PTSD is. So that's complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which means that I can get flashbacks, which are very intense emotional experiences, which relate to sort of unhealed things from childhood, no? And in these states, when it's like a different part of the brain literally takes over, no, like the reptilian flight or fright part of the brain. So it's really hard to think properly and to use the rational brain to figure out what exactly you need. So hence writing the manual, which takes me step by step into different practices to come into my body, has a list of telephone numbers, including Jamie's. And yeah, has saved me many times. And yeah, speaking to people, speaking to dear friends who can connect with your inner wise one, your inner adult, to bring you back has been immensely supportive to me, to not feel like you have to do everything alone. I was always a little trapped in the whole strong, independent woman thing, no, that you can't ask for help. And I think that's one of our downfalls a little bit in the way that we relate, is that we create these little isolated units of 2 people or a little family, and we try and do everything ourselves, and we've lost the kind of tribe. And so just and relating to that, I think what's also been really supportive to me, to not get lost in the sort of losing oneself in being in love, is to have this inquiry into what is it like to really be anchored into nature, feeling myself as part of this web of life. And what if I'm getting a lot of my nourishment and my sense of belonging and rootedness from being in this sensual communion with nature, and not just getting it from this one person? So yes, hence living in Portugal, where we are now, in a beautiful wild spot with lots of access to nature. So yeah, that's, I feel like it's a big missing, another blind spot now, is how our disembodiment and disconnect from nature affects the way that we do romantic relationships, and negatively impacts, I think, the way that we relate with humans.
Powerful.
We often look at the game of self-care is like taking really seriously, because if you're not in a self-caring thing and knowing about all your different special needs characters that are trying to grab the wheel, you're going to live your life just battered, triggered, yanked left and right by the last idiot that crossed your path, if you're not noticing your reactivity. So we also have another thing as well as the list, and it actually also Pete Walker, who wrote the book on CPTSD, and I think we're all in various forms of CPTSD. He's got a checklist in it of what to do when, which is absolutely brilliant. But we also have like a self-care document, which is much more comprehensive. If you really realize what a special needs, wounded, twisted freak you are, like it's like, I look at it like planet Earth is like a theme park of experience, of beautiful things you can have and do. But to go into this theme park with all this incredible spectrum of diabolic and angelic experiences, you have to carry this special needs freak under your arm all the way through, who's totally reactive and everywhere you go. And if you don't look after the needs of your little special needs character that you're carrying around, if you don't put their needs front and center, they will ruin the whole experience of the theme park. So you've got to both really enjoy the theme park, but also be constantly looking after this mad creature, this mental patient. So one of the games we invented was
I love that analogy.
Yeah, you need to write a book called the SNF.
What?
Yeah. If you're going to look after your mental patient, you need to take that job seriously. So what we do is we create a document which is the patient's notes, like you're picking yourself up from the mental hospital. You get given by the doctor the notes of the patient, all the things that trigger them, the kind of things they're meant to eat, what calms them down, you know, all that. So we make a quite comprehensive user's manual, self-care document of your own patient's notes. And then you can interview each other for the job of, you know, are you really willing to look after yourself? How are you going to do this? In relationship, you can both do a user's manual and then exchange them and create a third one for the relationship. I think it's worth, if you're going into a relationship, to make the user's manual on the way in, taking into account your triggers, your needs, your environments where you thrive, the kinds of people you want to stay away from, the kind of things you need more of, all the things that are unique to you. Go in at the beginning with your eyes open, rather than our other favorite game on the workshop, just this leads us to, is
You're gonna give the whole thing away.
oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They don't care. They're not coming anyway. They can't afford us.
You don't know that.
We might come,
so,
but you
yeah,
are a special freak. I'm not sure I want to now.
Lily Tomlin says, never marry anyone till first you've had lunch with their ex-wife. So one of the games we play is like how on a first date it's so dishonest. You go on a first date and you're like, the shit is pushed up like this, these are my tits. And it's all like a whole load of sort of false advertising. You know, you're talking to each other and you're like, I won't be any trouble. All those other people, they're so into drama, aren't they? Oh, I'm so over drama, aren't you? And everyone does this kind of lying first date to each other and presents the shop window of who they are. And then 6 months later, you see him shouting at some poor hotel receptionist. And this is not the man I fell in love with. Because we present this like silly first date version. So we do a game on the workshop where you do a first date with lovely restaurant music, some candles, and you warn each other. You make the first date about, instead of like showing off to each other, you make it like, I find you very attractive, but before this goes any further, I need to warn you. And then you share the absolute last thing you would ever share you share what a nightmare you are in relationship. This is the way that I'm going to drive you mad in 6 months. And you give each other fair warning on the way in, 3 different things that you're a nightmare liability in relationship. And you get to ask each other, well, what do you need when you react like that? So it ends up creating so much more intimacy to go in with the warnings rather than the shop window. The radical intimacy, like being the lunatic that you are, fucking take it or leave it. You know, and there's possibility of real love.
Yeah, and I like that because it's a radically intimate way of beginning a relationship anyway, in any measure, right? Because you're actually showing up fully transparently, radically honest, and you're going in there and just saying, hey, this is who I am and this is what I'm coming with. You know, are you good to go? Let's check out the manual. So that's awesome. I want to just check one thing just to see, is there anybody left asked any comments, just if there's any live people? If there's no live people, then that's good. We're the only live people. Everybody else is dead. Everybody else is radically dead. So
no, it's just going through Zoom. I don't think.
No, let me just check something because I just want to make sure that that nobody's like.
There's some comments.
Oh, I want to check this. Here we go.
No, just some love and appreciation. No comments.
Oh.
I have it here.
You saw it? Nothing. Nobody wants to ask a question. Anybody watching that would like to ask a question?
I'll tell you something that I don't know if you guys do as a couple that I think is really brilliant, and is another Marshall Rosenberg thing, is to make it illegal in the relationship to diagnose the other one in order to win an argument. Because with your self-help teachers, and you're all so perceptive and wise, oh, Dara, you're just doing that thing that you did last time with your childhood thing. Don't turn me into your father, or the other way around, you know. You start diagnosing each other when you're pissed off with each other to win the argument, and it's really good not to do that. It's like Marshall says, all feedback given without empathy is toxic.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I mean, that's a beautiful summary of what we're talking about. It's like I see how that falls into our relationship. You know, it's like, oh, you did it before. It must be because of that. And like, you know, your dad, you was abandoned, so it must be something to do with your childhood. You're like, well, you know, what the fuck are you talking about? You know, it's like you have no clue what's going on actually right now inside of me, and you know, and you can't assume that it's just associated that just because you know a story about me. So true.
Yeah, and it's great. Just always say, "May I offer?" It's so brilliant. I've noticed something. May I offer it? And we give them the right to say no. Otherwise it's a bit rapey, sort of penetrating them with your great wisdom. It's quite yang, whether you're a man or a woman. It's quite sort of boundary, not in a good way.
You want to say something to that?
This is really interesting in terms of what I'm going through at the moment, for example, is because I, by nature, for example, I'm very open to feedback. So I always, when I'm when I'm closed, I love Simon to give me something because it helps me. He doesn't. So he doesn't want me to give him anything. And this is such a challenge because at times I have such a little, I called him a little angry gremlin inside of me today, because it's like, why can you tell me things and I can't tell you things? I want to tell you things too, but he's just not open to that. And this is such a humbling experience for me to really allow him to just be whoever he wants to be in that moment, and not because I want to fix him because of my own discomfort with what that creates for me when he's a little bit closed, because
when I'm a special needs freak, you mean?
Exactly. I give it pulls so much on me. His special needs freak, I so want to tend to it because it makes me uncomfortable, that then I fall into, I have fallen nowadays. These days I'm much more like just observant of this tendency to kind of just want to fix him, but on the other hand, it's like, why can't you be as open as I am to your feedback? It's so great when you tell me these things, but you don't want to hear it from me. Why not? I'm just as wise as you. This little gremlin just like. So this is very, very.
The big.
It's cool.
Can you do you share sometimes in the intimacy to say, I'm really noticing my desperation to want to solve to mend you right now,
yes, nowadays, because I can observe it, then I say I can really see how I just want to get you out of this, and it helps as well. It helps in the dynamic.
We speak very openly, and we have a sharing practice and so on, and it's not entirely 100% true that I don't want to hear anything Dara says.
But it sounds like that.
It might sound like that to her when she's in a special needs freak zone, but actually I actually love hearing some of her wisdom. What I don't like from anybody really is what you said earlier, is if I'm going through something and I'm feeling whatever I'm feeling, resistance, closure, whatever you want to name it, it's like you often don't want to hear, like you said earlier, somebody instantly telling you the way out of it or the wisdom of it, or what you normally might say, like almost giving you your own feed, as if like, well, this is what you normally would say to somebody or help somebody and so on. So like, why don't it help you right now? And that's sometimes what that
the idea that you should be wanting to get out of it.
Exactly.
The very idea that it's wrong that you're feeling the shadow, then we need to do something about it is a dodgy premise.
Yes. And this is the thing, is like and sometimes what happens is like Dara or somebody else might go, oh, tell me what's going on. And often I can't articulate what's fully going on, because the minute I start to try to articulate it with words, then what happens is the other person listening assumes that they know what I'm experiencing, and those words might not actually be doing it justice. So then they start to give me feedback rather than sometimes I just need to vent. I just need to release a whole heap of crap. That's it. And then when somebody listens to me and goes, okay, anything else? If they just say anything else, it's like, yeah, and it's like, okay, good to go. So
also during the trigger, it's often not the best time to get the feedback. It's often the next day. Never has anybody in the history of calmed down when they were told to calm down. It's not obviously the time, the next day, darling, I noticed yesterday when you were in your thing, can I offer something? Yeah, the day after, because it's quite hard. We're not used to looking at each other as a teammate in the moments when we're triggered. And even though you guys have been together forever and everything, it really takes a lot of discipline and a lot of repetition to trust when you're triggered that someone's on your side.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of the men ask the women for on the man-woman parts of the workshops often, is like, we want your feedback, but we want it offered as a teammate with love and respect. We do want your challenge. We want your feedback. We want your input. but we don't yet dare believe that it could be offered as a teammate, that it's not like, unless I follow your advice, you're going to withhold from me, or unless I'm,
Right.
yeah, when somebody offers that feedback and you can really 100% believe that they're your teammate, it's a lot easier to receive.
Yeah, which, like you just said, whenever we're like sharing and like next day we're maybe breaking it down, analyzing it and going like, yeah, and then this happened and that happened. It's like, yeah, and then, you know, you're laughing about it because you're sort of uncovering it and you're seeing it, and it's a beautiful share. But when you're in a sort of battle, because what happens, this also happens, maybe we just talk about this sort of to end the talk on, but it's like that thing of when I talk about the pain body and I describe this to people on our workshops and we go into it, a lot of people don't, like you've been describing these different personas or, you know, special need freaks, whatever you want to call them. I like that term, is that people don't realize that they have them. And when you out them, when you bring them into awareness and do what you said earlier, and you start to give them life and see them for what they are, people are like, oh my Lord. And then what we say is that pain feeds off more pain. It wants to get somebody triggered. It wants to pull somebody in. So this is something that we see in ourselves. We know that we're trying to pull the other person in, and we're conscious of it. It's like you said, Ramdas is talking about. You're conscious of like, now I'm going to pull you in, you know. And it's like, and then the other one's like, no, I'm totally conscious. I won't get pulled in. It's like, yes.
It'd be a great chapter of the heading of the book we were saying was like, I'm not triggered. I just need to say this.
Exactly. Yeah.
So beautiful.
You're being triggered, denial, perilous.
Okay, cool. So is there anything in closing that you like? I always love to close with a little bit of gratitude, and just to throw in some gratitude. It can be gratitude for anything in your life, or if there's anything you want to say in closing to this radically intimate talk. This is the first talk we're doing with groups of people that we want to share just around, what it means to be radically intimate. But you can either end with a bit of gratitude, or if you have anything you want to feel that would benefit the viewers.
I just want to say that even though it's hard to believe, and even though everything in our culture tries to often show us the opposite, what the world actually wants is the actual you. Even though everything has seemed to show you that they want the good you, the rich you, the having it together you, the version of you that culture seems to be valuing, and not the actual you, the basket case, actually it's people fall in love with you for your eccentricities, not your appropriate side. And even though it appears that you mustn't show all those bits that don't fit in with the average, normal, appropriate side, those are the very bits we actually want. So just to hold, just to contemplate over the next few days, what would it be like if you actually let people into the actual you? How much, even if it wasn't all of it, some of it, is there any way you could expand the prison or the walls or the gates? Is there any way we could expand to show people a little bit more, even if it's vulnerable, even if it doesn't look like it's your most attractive or your most skillful or your most, did well before parts? People really want the actual you. They fall in love with your eccentricities, with your vulnerabilities, with your bravery to show them. Don't imagine that people want the little version, the little part shop window that you think they want.
Beautiful. Thank you. Ruby?
Well, after that...
Come on, say something better. Come on, say something interesting. Women's rights.
Oh, gosh.
Clever too.
No, just to say it's been a pleasure to connect with you, and we've never met before, and I hope our paths will cross in the future at some point. Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, it's been lovely.
Yeah, it's been super beautiful. Thank you.
Good luck with your incredible tour. As I said, you'll be taking your spirulina with you. You're going to be knackered.
Lots of
where are you touring?
Spirulina.
Where are we touring? Stockholm, Amsterdam, Antwerp, Zurich, Berlin, Vienna. Did I forget something?
Sounds good.
I think that was it.
Leaving a trail of radical intimacy in your wake.
No, we're just going to leave a trail of what they call special need freaks. That's it. We should make that song, special need freak song. Special need freak. Freak sound. You need to make a new film, man, called Special Need Freak. But wait there. Sorry, everyone. You go crazy now. Dara, how would you like to say your closing to this beautiful talk as we say goodbye to the world, the whole world that's watching us, just us?
No, just really a lot of appreciation for your insights and your beautiful sharing. Really, really, really enjoyed meeting both of you, since I haven't met either one of you, but heard a lot about you, Jamie. So it's really been lovely to see you both here and just connect in this way. And I really hope we're going to meet in the flesh a little bit more real than on a 2D screen.
Yeah, we could come to one of your workshops and then we can create a 4 special need freak workshop, the 4 of us. That'd be cool. Combining all freaks in one place. And I just come.
The seed has been planted.
In Malibu.
In Malibu, exactly.
Yes,
in
let's do
Malibu.
it.
And we're going to drink cocktails.
Oh.
Okay, well, I would just like to say thank you to everyone that watched. Thank you if you're watching on the replay. And please explore Jamie and Ruby's work. They're doing stuff all around Europe and other places. Jamie's got some things coming up in London and I don't know where. You're always popping up somewhere. Jamie pops up somewhere. You'll find him. Just have a look on his Facebook page and you'll see what's happening. And yeah, just for me, I'd just like to say gratitude. I met Jamie 6 years ago. We had a coffee and a little connection in Brighton when I was living there, and Ruby has been an introduction to me. And Ruby, yeah, I really feel your sensitivity and your presence and your love, and really feel a real groundedness in you. And I look forward to meeting you too. Yeah, so it's been lovely to listen to you. I really love the sound of your voice. Jamie's is okay, but yours is really beautiful to listen to.
Can I just say one more quick thank you before we go?
Here we go.
One more thank you.
He never shuts up.
One more thank you.
More wisdom.
One more thank
My
you.
other thank you. My other thank you is to Ruby, actually, because you nearly ruined it. But I'm still going to say it, even though you don't deserve it. My thank you is to Ruby is because of me being quite a disruptor and a bit of a sort of foolish person online. You know, I run into a lot of people like it, but a lot of think it's a wanker, and draw a lot of flack sometimes online from saying the silly things. And Ruby's like the first person that's ever stuck up for me online. Like sometimes you see her leaping in and like going, no, he actually does. I know he's an idiot, but believe it or not, he actually does staunchly protect women's rights, even though he says stupid things. she protects me, and I really appreciate that.
Friends are for.
Beautiful. Wow, there you go. Thank you for that. Thank you for that recognition. And there you go. There you go. Thank you to everybody. We are going to say goodbye. It's nice when we get cozy having these conversations. We just want to stay here. It's like we just leave it on live and you can watch us sleeping like in Big Brother. So thank you, everybody. I hope you've benefited. Please leave a comment if you have. Maybe share like what little insight you took from this. Jamie's going to put a link in the comments about his 8 bowls that he eats his breakfast with, and
wink.
Yeah, wink, wink, and just be radically intimate. You know, embrace yourself fully, and thank you for being part of this hangout, this radically intimate hangout. Take care. Ciao.
Bye, everybody.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye, Dara and Simon.
Bye, 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 bye.
Bye, bye. Oh.
Whoop. Whoop. Bye.